Happy Saturday. I am coming to you straight from Lexi's house, and we are getting ready currently to go to the Gaithersburg Book Festival. I am super excited. We have gone for the past couple of years together, and it has been so much fun every single year. I am super excited because there are some really cool authors that are going to be there today and meeting up with some other friends. So it is going to be a really solid day. I am super excited for today, and I'm going to take you along with me to document some of the fun that we have. So stick around and check out the Gaithersburg Book Festival with me.
Questions for both.
I am back home now after a whirlwind of a weekend at Lexi's, going to the book festival, and now it's time to let you know exactly what went down. I physically feel so exhausted from yesterday from all the physical activity, which was basically just walking around a lot, but also pulling the book cart. And it got progressively heavier throughout the day because I ended up buying a lot of books at the festival. And yes, I will absolutely show you what I ended up getting. Some of them were new from the authors that were at the event, and then quite a few of them were from the Friends of the Library book sale, where every single book was $4 or less, which was very tempting for me. It was a very random spread of books, and we just had to kind of sort through them throughout the day. And I walked away with quite a collection. So let's go through the books that I ended up bringing home with me. First off are the two books that I got for the authors that were at the event. The first book I got is The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark, and this book is by an author that I have not read before. However, I do know other people who have read this book and also read his other books, so the temptation was real, and after hearing him talk especially, I'm very excited to try this out at some point, including some of the other books that he's written, but especially this one. It just sounds so fun. This is about the main character being an assassin who is a part of a group of assassins, but they have a code that they live by, and there are certain rules that they have to follow regarding the people that they are supposed to be targeting. And the kicker is that they're all undead, not zombies, but they are the undead. So I think this is going to be a really fun story to kind of dive into, and especially hearing some of the nuances of the things that he was like really excited about in putting this book together makes me very excited to read it. And the other author that was at the same panel with P. Djeli Clark was Asha Grayling, and I am very intrigued by this story and very excited to read it at some point. This book is going to turn vampires on their heads because this is kind of a historical mystery with fantasy. The vampires end up serving the humans, which I think is a twist on what we typically hear from like vampire stories, where the vampires are all powerful and the humans are really struggling to fight them off. But in this story, the humans know how to defeat the vampires because they know about vampires. They know what they're capable of. It's no secret. And so the vampires are kind of at the mercy of the humans in this story. And I just think that's a really unique approach to take with a type of creature that people are usually calling the like unkillable types of creatures. And I just think this is going to be a lot of fun, but it does have a more historical setting, which I am not necessarily always into, but from the description and hearing the author talk about this, I am really excited. The main character is a lawyer who is supposed to be defending a vampire, and things are going to kind of get really dicey in there regarding the case that this lawyer is a part of. So I'm really intrigued by this one, and these are the two books that I picked up from the Politics and Prose bookstore that kind of like sponsors. They're the ones that source all of the new copies of the books for the authors at the event. But now let's get into all of the other used books that I picked up from the tent sale. It was just a giant pavilion with tables covered in boxes of books, and the volunteers at the event were constantly replenishing the books as they were being picked up and purchased. They were putting new ones out, so the selection collection was always changing, and I may or may not have ended up getting books at 2 different occasions. We went to the table 3 times and I got things twice. Now, out of the books that I got, which I purchased 8 books from the tent sale, actually I purchased 9, and one of them I gave to Carly because it was a Stephen King book that had color pictures in it, and it was a book that Carly was really looking at, and I ended up giving that to her at the end of the day, and that was The Gunslinger, I believe. So technically I bought 9 books. I came home with 8 books from the tent sale plus those other 2, and of the 8 tent sale books I brought home, 2 of them are going to be gifts for people, so I kind of also validated that. Plus I paid with cash with like girl math, meaning I basically didn't pay anything. So anyway, let's get into it. The first one is a gift for my father. He's a big Star Trek fan, and I found this book and I am very confident that he doesn't already have this, and if he does, I probably got it for him at some point, which means I would be giving him a duplicate. I don't think that's the case, but we are always looking for fun things that he is interested in, and he recently retired, which means he's got more time on his hands to be able to read through this book. I don't really know anything about it, but it is very my father coded, so I picked this one up. And the other book that I got that's also a gift is for my husband because he is a big Game of Thrones fan. This one is a Game of Thrones puzzle quest. It is unofficial and unauthorized. They make sure to tell you that on the front, but this has like literal puzzles, like a word search. I opened it up just to flip through and recognized nothing because I know nothing about Game of Thrones, but I'm hoping that my husband understands some of it because it seems really cool, but there's like a lot of like puzzles and riddles and things like that that I think are going to be really fun. So I got that one for my husband. The rest of the books were for me, so let's get into it. The first one is Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes, and shockingly enough, I never got a physical copy of this. I did have the ARC of it, but I ended up never getting the physical one. This one is not the newest. Cold Eternity is the newest one, but I never even got my hands on Ghost Station, so I'm excited to have this one now, and I still need to get the new one as well. But for $4 for the hardcover, it was a done deal. Next up is Blake Crouch's Pines, and this was one that Lexi and Carly both said, you haven't read that? You're getting it, and they handed it to me, and then I never put it back down. So I am gonna add this one to my collection. I have read 2 other Blake Crouch books and really liked them. Well, I really liked the one, and the other one was so-so. I'm talking about Upgrade, if you know, you know. But I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it as much as I love Dark Matter, but I still haven't read Recursion. I think that's the one. I still haven't read that one yet, so it is on my list, but for now, I am adding this one so that I can read this at some point as well. Okay, next up is a Stephen King. I ended up getting The Running Man, which I am trying to build my Stephen King collection, and this one only being $2 as a paperback, I figured why the heck not. And now, okay, so the rest of these books are not all Stephen King. However, I do have to say that the final 3 books that I'm about to share with you somehow miraculously ended up all being over 1,000 pages. I don't understand how I walked away with 3 books over 1,000 pages, but it does explain why our book cart was so dang heavy by the end of the day, because all 3 of these were inside. First off, I did get a copy of It, which I already have a copy of It, but it's one of the tiny like pocket-sized ones, and it's a little the print is really tiny. It was kind of difficult to read. Plus, I am obsessed with this cover. I think it is so creepy, and I really love this cover a lot more than the other edition that I had. And since this was, again, as a paperback, $2. $2 for all 1,000 pages of this book. Thankfully, I have already read this one, so I know that I liked it decently. I'm still traumatized by that one scene in the sewers, but we're gonna move past that. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I still really liked most of this, and also I love the movies. So in general, I'm just really happy to have this version of this book. And then the other Stephen King book that I also got that's over 1,000 pages is The Stand, and this is the complete and uncut edition, which Carly was quick to lecture me on because there were 2 copies of The Stand there, and I picked up the first one and she said, don't get that one. It's the cut version. It's like the first edition. And then a couple minutes later, I ended up finding this one, and so I snagged this. It is also over 1,000 pages, and I have absolutely no clue when I am going to have the guts to try to read this, but for, again, $2, I figured why not go ahead and add it to my collection. And then the final book that I got for over 1,000 pages is really funny. It's really funny that this book was there, and there was more than one copy of this book at the tent sale, but I snagged this copy, and it's funny because there have been jokes as a game master for Escape. There's been jokes about people wanting me to read really long books, and and trying to get me to prolong my reading experience so I'm not submitting as much. And one of the attempts was to try to get me to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So I do have it now. I didn't previously have a copy of this book, but now I do, and it is so freaking long. But again, $2 for this paperback edition, and now I have it. I believe there is going to be a buddy read going on in July for this book, so I'm planning to read it then, not during Escape. There is no way that I would be able to read a 1,000-page book this month and still keep my sanity in check. So I am gonna add this to my shelf and read it at a later date, but I'm excited to have it. And it was just very funny because it's been very recent that people have been trying to convince me to read this book so that it takes me a long time to get through it. So anyway, those are all the books that I ended up buying at the tent sale. I feel like it was a very successful trip. And like I said, I paid with cash. Therefore, I didn't really pay anything if you think about it. Look, I know it's faulty logic, but I'm gonna live with it, okay? But before I go, I do want to do one final update, and that is my reading update for where I am in Rebel Witch, which I just started on Friday, I believe. I am sitting at like just under a half. I was reading this at Lexi's a bit, and then I was also listening to it on the way back from Lexi's. So I am just shy of the 50% mark, I believe. And so far, I am really, really enjoying the story. It took me a long time. I'm talking like at least 20% of this book to actually remember anything that was happening in book one. I probably should have reread Heartless Hunter or watched a summary or something to help me remember who these people were, what the situation was. I vaguely remembered the ending event, but there was a lot that I forgot, and they started talking about it very early on in here. I was like, who's that? What do you mean that's what happened? Like, I don't recall. I finally started remembering things at about 20%, plus Lexi helped me remember a couple other things because she had already read this, so we were talking about that again this morning a little bit. And now at where I am, just shy of 50%, the story is picking up a lot. There is so much tension happening, and some of it I am feeling very uneasy about in the way that like, oh, I love it, don't get me wrong, but also it's like making me so uncomfortable because I'm like, just stop hating each other. I'm ready for the enemies to not be enemies, okay? I'm ready for them to like just be lovers and like not both at the same time. So that's kind of how I'm feeling, but I really do like where the story is going. I think there's a lot of moving pieces to this, and there is so much deception, which is so fun to read, but a little bit anxiety inducing for the romantic in me that is like, as much as I love enemies to lovers, like, oh my god, like they are literally trying to kill each other every 5 seconds, and it's insane. But I'm having a great time, and I cannot wait to finish this book, hopefully very, very soon. Probably not today, maybe tomorrow or Tuesday, and then I am going to be continuing in my new release selections. Do I know what I'm reading next? Not really, but for now I am really having fun with this, and I think that's the end of all of my updates for right now. I am utterly exhausted, but it is midday on Sunday, which means I have lost my Lost watch along coming up in a couple of hours. I gotta get ready for that. I'm gonna do some editing, maybe do some reading, and just like in general relaxing my body because I still feel very exhausted from yesterday. This is proof to me that I need to be more physically active, walking more, maybe running, probably not running, but definitely getting more into walking regularly for longer amounts of time, even at a faster pace, just to keep my body from collapsing when I try to do one thing for one day. So anyway, that's how I'm feeling. Also, I got home, and about 15-20 minutes after I got home, I'm sitting here eating lunch, and Kiara, my cat, not this one, this is Kovu, and he's lovely, but Kiara used my back as a parkour wall and left a giant scratch down my back, which was quite painful. So I'm also now recovering from that, and it was not a very nice welcome home. But anyway, with all that said, that's my summary of the weekend. It's been very, very fun, but I'm very tired, and I'm gonna go try to like chill for a little bit, and I will keep you updated this week. I'm gonna go take a nap. Happy rainy Wednesday. We've been having rain so much lately, and don't get me wrong, I love rain. It's some of my favorite weather, but it is not a fun way to start the day. I feel very tired, which is why I finally made myself an iced coffee from home, which I don't do super often, also because I kept forgetting to buy new creamer, and I need me some creamer in my coffee. But today I have a honey cinnamon coffee with caramel syrup in it, and it is divine. Like, it is a very good combination. Problem is, I think I used my last honey cinnamon pod today, so I'm really sad about that. But let's get to some of the books that I'm reading, because I'm reading as the podcast podcasters right now, and they entered the arcade just about 2 days ago, and the arcade is a 48-hour readathon. We are coming up on the end of those 48 hours, and I've been trying to read as much as I can within this time frame to try to keep them in the game a little bit longer. I don't think I'm gonna get to submit anything else, but I did have one book that I completed, and that is Wild and Wrinkled by Lila Sage. This is book 4 in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and I really did enjoy reading this book. I think I'm giving it 4.5 stars, but I can't decide if I want to go down to 4 or up to 5. I feel like if I had read this in conjunction with all of the others, it would be easily a 5-star read because all 3 of the others were 5 stars, but I'm reading this like 2 months later, and I feel like the separation is part of why I couldn't give this 5 stars like right off the bat like I normally would. So with this book, it did take me a little bit, I would say probably like 20 to 30 pages to even remember what was going on in the lives of these characters. We meet these characters throughout the other book, but I forgot basically everything. They started name dropping like other characters and the way everybody's related, and I was like, who's that? I don't know who you're talking about. And so I struggled really hard at the beginning to get a grasp on where we were, having taken 2 months in between reading the other ones and this one. So I think that did impact my reading experience just a little bit, but I did really, really like the story. I loved getting to know Cam and Dusty, and I love that we get not only their 2 perspectives, alternating POVs, but we also get some flashback chapters and get to see them from when they meet as like preteens, teenagers, and how they develop feelings for each other and throughout the years of them growing up until there is a little bit of a falling out that we know happens at some point because of the dynamic that these have in some of the earlier books. But I love getting to see it all unfold within the confines of this story and getting to see where they come in the present timeline as well. I just really liked getting to see that growth. I did not like the 3rd act conflict, and it was very, very close to the end. And I think at first I didn't like the conflict because I didn't think it needed to be a conflict. I think it was over dramatized in a way that like didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But on top of that, the resolution happened so fast, I got whiplash. I literally read the resolution and flipped the page and it was the epilogue, and I was like, ooh, that's it? That's it? Like, you made this conflict sound so dramatic, and then the resolution was all of like 1 page. I don't know what was happening there. I don't know if it's because it's the last book in the series, so everything needed to be like neat and tidy and cleaned up, but I don't know. I just was not loving that element. So like the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards rounding down to 4 stars for this one, even though I still had a fantastic time reading it. I think the writing is so natural and easy, and I really love Lila Sage, and I can't wait for the next book. I want to say it's Soul Searching is the next one. I'm very, very excited for that to get more of this author's writing. But yeah, so I managed to get through this one in less than 24 hours, which was really exciting. I started it on sprints on Monday night, and then I finished it yesterday at work. So a very quick read for this one. But the other book that I'm in the middle of is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. And here's the thing, I'm struggling a little bit. This one also took me a very long time to remember what the heck was going on from book 1. Like a long time to understand who people were and what was going on, because I have not read book 1 for almost a year now. So this one took me a little bit to get into, and now I am sitting at about 50%. I think I'm at like 55% or something like that. And I'm liking it well enough, but I'm not obsessed with it like I was Heartless Hunter, which I devoured in like 1 day. This one, I'm not obsessed with it, and I don't want to say I don't like it, but I feel like it's moving a lot slower. Like I'm struggling to bring myself to read it, which is not what I expected from this because of how much I loved the first one. So I don't know if it's just like a mental fog right now or what's going on. I mean, I devoured this thing in less than 24 hours. So the fact that I've been reading this since Friday and it is now Wednesday and I still haven't finished it is a little bit shocking for me. I don't know what to think about that. I'm gonna try to power through as much of it today as I can. This one is a little bit longer. I want to say it was like a 14-hour audio or something like that. So I know it's a little bit longer, but I don't know. I'm not loving this as much as I wanted to. I do think where things are right now in the story, maybe we're gonna get some more action. Things are gonna start picking up, but I just feel like so much of this is like espionage and like secret conversations rather than like action and things happening, which I do think was probably very similar for Heartless Hunter now that I think more about it. But I don't know. I just need something else to happen that will like carry me through the rest of this book, because otherwise, like, I don't know. I'm just not loving it like I had hoped I would, but I'm gonna hope things will change. I'm hopefully gonna get some good of reading time in today, but I have a lot of editing to do as well. So I'm gonna try to like plow through a lot of that today and really make today a like super productive day. But it's also a work from home day and I have a lot of like my job work to do. So I'm gonna have to work in some reading and things like that during breaks. So here's to having a hopefully good day, and hopefully my cats stop terrorizing me, because I swear like Kiara's been chasing her tail on the windowsill and walking all over my computer, and Kovo's up here chilling right now, which is great, but let's just hope that today is going to be a good day. I'm also having some technological issues, which is not a surprise for me at all. I feel like I always have tech issues, and today my computer, my work laptop, is refusing to connect to my monitor, and I don't know what's happening, so I have to troubleshoot that. It's just it's a rough start to the day, and it's a gloomy, overcast, rainy day, so I just feel like it's setting the vibe, but I'm hoping I can turn it around just a little bit. Another day, another update, and this time I have Kovu with me, who decided to cuddle with me at my workstation, so I am loving this quality time while he tries to bite me. Okay, Kovu is trying to eat me, so we're gonna do the rest of this update without him, but I have a couple of books to update you on because I just did not feel like updating yesterday. It was another rainy, gloomy day. The sun is out today, so it feels a lot better, and I just feel more alive. So let's get into my updates. First of all, I finally finished Rebel Witch, and honestly, this book took way longer than I expected it to get through. I devoured Heartless Hunter in one day. This one took me like 6 whole days, which is longer than it typically should. I just could not find it in myself to like want to keep picking this book up. When I was reading it, I was liking it well enough, but for some reason, like as soon as I would put it down, I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I did not want to keep going, which was just really sad. I was very disappointed reading this book, and I can't even put my finger on exactly what it was. I just like didn't care as much, but I still really, really love Gideon and Rune and their adventures throughout this story. We are still in the thick of their enemies, of the enemies to lovers, because they are constantly trying to betray each other, keeping secrets from each other, and this overall picture of a potential war that could be coming soon is always looming over their heads. And so there's a lot of stress going into the decisions that they're making, and I really, really love the tension, and I really, really love the dynamic between them, even though sometimes I was getting like secondhand anxiety over the decisions that they were making, and like every time they wanted to betray the other, I was like, do you have to? Like, come on, do you have to? I was just waiting for like the lovers part to fully kick in, and I am really happy with how that all came about. I think that the timeline of the tension and the enemies to the lovers point, I think it made a lot of sense, even though there was a lot of like round and around and around for a lot of really good reasons. So overall, I really liked the story. I liked the characters still. I liked the continuation, but something about this book felt slow. I think there were a lot of scenes that were a little bit slower paced, and they were all based on conversations and like basically espionage and like these discussions of how to sneak into things. And I think we did have a lot more of telling and not showing in this story. So I think that was part of what set this kind of back for me. So I am gonna go with a 3-star rating, which hurts. It hurts my heart because I gave Heartless Hunter 5 stars, but this book was just not what I was hoping for. It was not what I was expecting. So this one is gonna go, I think it's 3.5. Like I think I can accurately give it 3.5 stars, but like with how hard this was to get through, I don't think I can fairly round it up to 4. So I'm gonna round it down to 3. And I'm very excited to be done with this. However, even though I didn't love this one as much as I had hoped I would, it does not change my opinion on Heartless Hunter. I still love that book. But putting that one aside, I did pick up a new book that I am excited to update you on, and that is Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. Now, this is the sequel to Phantasma, which I read like a month or 2 ago, maybe, and I didn't love it. I only gave Phantasma 3 stars. To me, Phantasma felt very much like Rebel Witch did, where I was dragging. I didn't really care about what was going on. There were some weird dynamics going on because it's a competition setting where all the characters are like trapped in a house and they have to compete. I did not love some of the elements that went into that competition. This is the sequel, and this follows the sister of the character from Phantasma. So Genevieve Grimm is our main character here, and just from the synopsis, honestly, I read the synopsis as soon as I finished Phantasma Phantasma, and I knew that this book was going to probably be better for me just based on the plot. It is more along the lines of things that I typically like. So I was very excited to pick this one up and give it a shot, even though I didn't love the first one. And so far, it is definitely proving me right. This book is by far more enjoyable for me than the first one was. Our main character here is Genevieve, and she is going to go to this house and basically get trapped on the grounds and accidentally ends up being an unwilling participant in a competition to the death. So only one person makes it out, and the rest of them are sentenced to a year in hell until the following year when they get to compete all over again. It's a family game. They're all siblings. The catch is that they're all immortal, and she is not. So when she accidentally gets stuck in here, things have to change so that she has the best chance of not dying. And the best way to hopefully help her win is by marrying one of the siblings, Rowan. So they have a basically fake marriage because they have to pretend that they care about each other to play this game, but it is a real marriage. So they really do have to fake it till they make it, and things are going to unravel very quickly with this romance. I am already like over a third of the way through this, and I am having a very fun time getting to see the dynamic between these two characters who start out hating each other because they are both very feisty personalities, which I think is so much fun to read. I just really like the two of these characters pitted against each other, but also having to depend on each other and trust each other because they need to win these games so that Genevieve doesn't die. I just really like this so far, and I'm so glad that I'm liking it more than Phantasma. The fake dating slash fake marriage was definitely one of the things that elevated the story for me and made me think I was going to like it, and in fact I very much do. But this book also has a lot of like supernatural paranormal creatures. There is a literal hierarchy of devils and demons and different types of characters, and I really like getting to see the breakdown and how they all interact with each other. So all of those pieces fit well, and I think it's done a little bit better in this one than Phantasma was. But ultimately, the general plot and tropes of this one just are more aligned with what I typically end up loving. So I am going to continue diving into this one. I've actually found myself, I started this yesterday, and I found myself picking this book up and reading it at many occasions. Like anytime I have free time, I am picking this book up to try to read it, which is a really good sign. It means I'm liking it and I'm not dragging my feet like I was with Rebel Witch. So I can't wait to continue in this one, make some more progress, and be able to update you a little bit more. This is probably going to be the last book that I read for this week. I don't know if I'm going to finish it before the changing of the guards for Game Masters switching teams, but I'm hoping that I can finish this one today. I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe tomorrow, and we'll see if I get to submit it for the podcasters or for the next team that I end up haunting for the final week of Escape. But for now, that is my update, and I will catch you later. Okay, so technically week 3 is already over, but I do have one final update that I want to include in this vlog, and it is because I did finish Enchantra, and I finished it like very shortly after the changing of the guard of me switching to be reading against the hackers for the final week. But I did want to still give it my update, even though I did submit this against the hackers and not the podcasters. You're welcome, podcasters, but I still want to give the update and include it into this vlog. So let's talk about Enchantra and what this book means to me. First of all, I am so glad I gave this book a chance. I was very nervous when I read Phantasma, and it was really disappointing from my expectation of it. I was really nervous because I really wanted to like this series, and I really wanted to read this book, and I had already pre-ordered the sequel, which I know is a problem all its own. Okay, we don't need to talk about my book buying problem. I mean, we do, but like another time. So I had already pre-ordered this book. I already had it in my hands, and when I read Phantasma, I was so disappointed, and I was not sure that I was going to actually commit to reading this book. However, I am so glad that I did, because this was a 5-star read, and it was incredible. This was everything that I wanted Phantasma to be, so let's talk about it a little bit. I already talked about what this book is about, but the things that I really loved about this was, first of all, the trope. The tropes in this book were ones that are more easily lovable for me. I tend to gravitate more towards things like fake dating, marriage of convenience, even the like reluctant allies. I don't want to say it's necessarily enemies to lovers, because they don't really know each other very well at the beginning. They're more like strangers to reluctant allies to lovers, and I really like this dynamic. dynamic, and I think that it was explored really well throughout this book. We get a kind of slow burn in the way that they start to trust each other, but the marriage of convenience, which is also fake dating because they are pretending to be in a relationship for the entirety of the competition in this book. I think this fed into the actual plot so well, especially knowing some of the intricacies behind why this competition happens and what it all means to the players within the game, the members of the family, the siblings. I think that it all blended super, super well. But on top of that, I also just really thoroughly loved getting to know a little bit more about Genevieve and Rowan throughout the story and seeing that they both have really strong personalities. We know Rowan has a strong personality even from the way that he interacts with his siblings, but we also know Genevieve has a pretty strong personality herself, one, because of what we know about her from Phantasma, but two, because the story follows her and we get to see what's in her head a little bit more. We get to see her motivations behind everything, and I love getting to see how strong and stubborn they both can be, and I love that when we get to see them together, neither of them has to kind of like change their personality. They both find ways to just blend. They find ways to work together, and I just think it was spectacular. On top of that, the actual plot of the book and how each night was a different competition, but it was very like time-based. Everything seemed very organized, and I feel like this competition was a lot easier to follow. One of my main complaints for Phantasma was that it felt like Ophelia was literally cheating in every single round of the competition, and it just didn't make sense why that was allowed, why she alone was allowed to have this person literally guiding her through every single level of the competition. It didn't make sense to me. I also just like didn't care too much about the romance as it was building. In this one, I obviously love the romance, but I also just love that the game itself feels more fair. It feels like they are really just competing as they have to. Yes, the two of them have to compete together, and that changes things a lot, but it felt a lot more balanced than Phantasma did, and I really liked that about this because the competition is so central. And in general, I just really liked the way that this felt a little bit more well-rounded, and overall, I just ended up absolutely loving this book. I devoured it so fast. I found myself not wanting to stop reading, and when I did stop reading, I was very eager to pick it back up. And it makes me excited because I thought this was a duology, and it's not. There is going to at least be a book 3. I know that much. I have no idea what that book might bring, but I am excited to explore it, and I'm hoping that it's going to keep up the momentum from this book. So I just had to share that. Even though technically I finished it during week 4 officially, I still had to share my thoughts on that because this book was phenomenal. It was so freaking good. But that does bring me absolutely to the end of week 3, and I feel like this was another solid week. I got a couple of books in, which makes me feel really good, and I'm excited to head into the final week and see what more chaos I can rain, because now we are going to be in the final countdown of can we keep everybody on the cruise. So anyway, that is all I've got to say for now, but I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting me with every second that you spend here, but also thank you for supporting the Readathon. I absolutely love what Lexi has done with Escape. But with all of that said, again, I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I really hope that I will see you in the next one. Bye!